Alright, fuck yeah, we're gonna make some motherfucking biscuits and gravy. First thing you need is a cast iron skillet. Need a little bit of milk, a little bit of sausage, a can of biscuits, a little crushed red pepper for a little bit of spice, a little sea salt, black pepper, regular all-purpose flour, whisk, sifter, cutting board, baking pan, oven, preheating to 400 degrees for the biscuits, which we'll set aside. Go ahead and put the milk up before it gets hot. Alright, pan's already been preheating, so first step first. Cut this fucking sausage open. And all you're going to do is break this up and brown it into the pan. And that pan is nice and hot, so let's get this sausage out. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of oil. Constantly washing hands, of course. Alright. So we're going to add a little bit of canola oil just to make this go a little quicker. Got a nice hot spot I can already see. And I'm sure you can't see in the video, but when the oil slides around the pan like that, that's a hot fucking pan. So you got to be careful. Watch your smoke point, watch your flash point. You don't want it so fucking hot. If you put the wrong oil in there, grease fire. Which you use flour to put out with, and it's right fucking there. So, you got this big old blob of sausage. Let's start throwing that shit in there. Just chunk it up by hand. Ain't gotta be anything fancy, and it's gonna splatter a little bit till you get it covered. Then when it starts cooking, it'll start releasing some juices, and that'll settle down a bit. Alright, so nice sizzling, good browning going. And I like to start with bigger chunks. You can always chop it up as you're cooking it, but it helps you not overcook so you don't end up with a bunch of little overcooked granules. You can still taste chunks of sausage. So in the finished product, you want to be able to have, you know, bites of sausage in there, not just tiny little crumbles like you would in a meat sauce. Depending on how you make your meat sauce. I don't know. Alright, so all we're doing is just breaking that up, getting that in there. Washing hands. Alright, now, metal spatula, kind of work it around. You can already see some of the parts of browning. That's good. But you pretty much got to cook it till there's no pink visible before you start adding anything to hide it, like the flour or whatever. So you just kind of gently break up some of the larger pieces. Like I said, you want chunks in the end, but you don't want fucking meatballs. By the way, this is an 18 and up channel. I can say fucking. So, while that's going, oven's still preheating. But, we can take this time. Go ahead and get our biscuits ready. And of course, this thing's gonna make me look like a fucking idiot and not have this slice in it. So, I always just beat it against the counter. That's how you get that bitch open. So we'll set that there. Go ahead and get this out of here. And before I do that, pan baking spray. Don't need a fuck ton. Not trying to flavor the shit. That's what the butter's for, later. So you take the biscuits. We'll arrange them here in a second. First thing is to get them out. And the fun part is if you buy cheap biscuits, they show up fucked up like that. So, but anyways, we'll get them separated. And you want kind of equal spacing, accommodating all of them. So, sometimes you end up with weird spacing, whatever fucking works, just so that there's equal room between them. That's about as good as we're going to get. So that's ready to go in the oven. So back to the sausage at hand. Give them some nice brown on that. You do want a little char. You want some of that smoky flavor kind of. But you don't want to overcook the meat overall. So we're going to start busting up some of those bigger chunks again. Again, not getting too small. You don't want fucking micro frills. But you want good chunks there. And by the way, I have this on a 6 on a double electric burner. So the burner is the size of the pan. So the biggest burner you can get or the appropriate size pan is always the best. And for the record, this cast iron skillet is the most precious thing I own, more important than my wife, because this thing can actually feed me. Invest in a good cast iron skillet. Look up how to take care of it. Salt water, never soak. You have to cure it with some oil in a 500-degree oven. But once you get a good seal on it, or a cure they call it, you can use that bitch for anything. Occasionally you'll fuck up and take the cure off of it and you just redo it. Reseal it, but otherwise a good cast iron pan you can cook anything in, and I mean it's so heavy, it's so thick. Once it heats up, it's got a uniform surface, so for things like eggs or you know, pancakes and stuff like that, it works beautifully as long as it's balanced and sits on the stove right. Nothing worse than a pan that doesn't fucking sit flat. Alright, so the sausage is getting there. Nice browning going on. And you'll know it's getting done when you can find the remainder of the... Oh, there we go. Oven's ready. You find the remainder of the big chunks, and if you cut them in half and they look 98% done, like that does, then you're good to go. Because you got to remember, it's going to keep cooking as we're going on, and as soon as you turn the heat down, doesn't mean the pan cools down. So you get that residual cooking. Alright, at this point, before we go any further, go ahead and add some spices. Usually I get spiced sausage. They didn't have it this time, so no different than what they have. I just put some crushed red pepper in there. Not too much, just enough to get a little kick. Salt. I like coarse sea salt. I always break it out in hand, grind it up, pinch it in. And it's sausage, so you don't really need a lot, but I know this brand of sausage. I know how I like the finished product, so I can just go ahead and season. But, you know, you may want to experiment with this at home. And that's another trick. Put it in your hand. If you think you have too much, you can always toss it in the fucking sink or in the garbage, whatever. If you fucking put too much on there, you can't take it out of the fucking meal. So, again. So this is just coarse black pepper, coarse sea salt, and a little crushed red pepper. And that's coming up nicely. Now, yeah, you can kind of see the oil level. So let's go from there. Alright, so this is definitely hot enough. Everything's cooked. We got the seasoning in there. I'm going to go ahead and move this to one side. Reason being is I want to show you what we're after is the oil. We need that oil to make the gravy. So, as you can see, there's very little oil. So, let's go ahead and kill our temperature here. We're going to bring it down to about a 2. But we need to add more oil. So, we're going to add about 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. Actually, teaspoons, sorry. Not quite that much. About a tablespoon overall. Alright, so now we got a nice little oil. Now comes the fun part. if I can get the fucking flour open. There we go. And of course it rips. You motherfucking piece of goddamn shit. There we go. Alright, so you don't need a ton of it, and what I do is I just pour it straight into the sifter. And of course you make a mess along the way. That's going to happen. Alright, so we already have some in there. What you're going to do is whisk this back and forth. It's going to cook the flour, kind of thickening the oil up a little bit. And we're going to take just a little more of that flour in there. It's good to sift because it breaks it up so you don't end up with chunks of fucking dough in your fucking gravy, which can happen. Alright, so now we're starting to get a little different color texture there. Starting to brown a little bit, so we're going to add a little more gravy. Or flour, I should say. You got to be careful because it's easy to get carried away with the flour. Alright, so now you can see that it's almost caking up. And if you'll notice the mess I'm making, it's because I don't give a fuck. I care about the food, the finished product, not about how clean it looks, about how pretty it is. It's whether or not we can fucking eat it and like it. Alright, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and put the biscuits in. And like an idiot, I threw the instructions away, thankfully. I have another can here that tells me 10 to 13 minutes or until golden brown. So I always go the minimum. So we'll go 10 minutes. Start. Alright, move all this shit out of our way. Now, we got the base of a nice... If you leave that alone, that's just the brown gravy right there. And a lot of people, that is what gravy is. It's just fucking oil and fried flour, basically. Now, something interesting will happen as soon as I start adding milk. It's going to start wanting to fight that and bring all that out of suspension. Any new jug of milk, I always break the seal and shake it up real good. It settles in shipping. So, we're going to add some milk there. A lot of time. But you can see it immediately starts caking that out. So, it brings that flour out of suspension, and now you have what looks like flour turds. So, we just need to add more liquid. And we'll get that back into suspension. And this is where the difference between brown and white gravy comes in. Alright, so that's thickening up. Still need some more. Go. So far we've used about a cup of milk. I don't like to measure these things. I make it per batch, as is. Go ahead and start working the rest of the sausage back into the overall mix so you get the rest of that oil that's hiding at the bottom. And if need be, if there's still a little oil puddling around the edge, you can always add a little more oil. Or a little more flour, I mean. Alright, so we got a good base there. Still looks a little oily, so I'm going to add just a tiny pinch more flour. Alright, and it's starting to thicken up. You can see that there. It's getting a nice, good base to it. Now, still a little thick for my liking, so I'm going to add a little more milk. And we're going to go ahead and turn this all the way down to simmer. And if you have a double, I like to put it on the single simmer. Loaded gun. By the way, that's the radio, not me, so if you didn't like any of the tunes, go fuck yourself. Alright, that is almost there. I think that is pretty. Now, we dial in the seasoning. Alright, at this point, if it tastes a little doughy, add a little more liquid. If it tastes oily, add a little more flour. And if it tastes like shit, quit putting shit in it. And as a rule of thumb, anytime you're cooking anything, always keep an eye on your baked goods. Ovens run hot sometimes. Pans are thick and not the right kind. People make mistakes, etc. So always keep an eye on your products while you're baking. You can always bake it longer. You can't underbake it. Just like a beagle. You can fuck a beagle, but you can't unfuck a beagle. They have to go to therapy for that. Alright. So, check it again. Yep, just a pinch more. Pinch more salt. Pinch more pepper. Not too much. And that's what I was saying. See, I'm going to waste that little bit because I'd rather throw that away than ruin that. Yes, kitty, I see you. I don't need your help. Alright, so. Got a nice gravy that's setting up well. A good way to tell you've got a nice gravy is if it coats your spoon or not. See that? That's good gravy. It shouldn't just come right off. If your spoon like wipes clean with gravy, that's not a fucking gravy. Alright, so it's still a little thick, so we're going to end up having put about 1.25 cups of milk in here. So you just stir that. And of course, the more milk you add, the softer the flavor becomes. You lose more of that kind of brown gravy, the heartiness, the sausage flavor. But, you know, it's to each their own. Some like it thicker, some like it lighter. Some don't like it at all, and they can go fuck themselves. Anyways, alright, so that looks almost fucking perfect. So, final taste test. Perfecto. Alright, so it's on the lowest setting possible. You want to get it to where it's just barely warm, just so that it doesn't set up, because if you let it go cold, of course it's going to come out of suspension and be a little more. But if you time it just right, you see we got 3 minutes on the biscuits. Oh, and the other thing, when you're tasting it, just taste the gravy. Don't taste the sausage. You know what the fucking sausage tastes like. You're not making sausage, you're making sausage gravy. So you're tasting the gravy. Alright, so that's a beautiful color, beautiful consistency. Get our executive chef in here to taste test. None of this fucking matters if she doesn't like it. Good? Good. Alright, we got approval. Batches a go. Alright, so really the rest of your time is just spent fiddling around and telling stupid jokes into YouTube videos. By the way, shout out to Punky. Did all this bullshit for you, and anybody else who likes it and enjoys it. Thanks. Thumbs up. Whatever. I don't care. I'm just doing this for fun. But expect more of these as I show a friend of mine online how to actually cook rather cheap meals rather easily, and go through some of the fundamentals of just overall technique and stuff like that. Of course, this is my first video, so I'll be more technical coming on, or going forward, I should say. But really, the whole point of this is just share the wealth. This is basically my passed down family gravy recipe. Pretty simple. I learned it from my aunt, and hadn't failed me yet. So let's see here. We're about a minute away. And remember, the package said 10 to 13 minutes, but a minute away. I still want to check it. And those look almost golden fucking perfect. So clear spot. Oh. Voila. Alright. Let's go ahead and stop that. Oh, perfect. Oh, see how they slide around, not sticking to the bottom? That's fucking perfect. Now, what I like to do is immediately, if I can find it. Here we go. Take them out. Perfect. Quiet you. Take those. Clean dish towel. And let that sit. And then does nothing more than let them cool off a bit, get them to the edible temperature, and like I say, your gravy, as long as it looks like that, should be good to go. Always stir it before you serve it, because like I said, within a minute or two it starts setting up. But there you go. There's a hearty sausage and gravy. What I like to do is take the biscuit, split it in half, put 2 or 3 on a plate, scoop the gravy over, serve it, and tell them, fuck yeah. Charge them $20 and be like, bitch, how was it? Alright, well, I hope you folks enjoyed watching me make a mess, and hopefully show you how to fucking make some sausage gravy and biscuits. It's a southern staple. It's fucking cheap. It's easy to make. I mean, the sausage was $3. The biscuits were 2 for $1. The flour was like $2, and hopefully you have salt and pepper and crushed red pepper. But anyways, even if you had to start from scratch, minus buying the cooking equipment, you're looking at $6-7. So out the door, there's a good hearty meal that is going to feed 2 people at least twice. So even at $10 a meal, or $10 a preparation, that's only $2.50 a meal. So, but in actuality, this is going to cost about $1.25 a plate. So there you go. There's how you eat. There's how you do it cheap. And I hope you guys tune in the future. Talk to you later. Rant out.